I talk a lot about China on here, but, Vietnam is also a success story for socialism. It really is. Vietnam, right? The World Economic Forum praises Vietnam gushingly. They talk about, they wrote an article, What's Behind Vietnam's Economic Miracle? And this is what they wrote, right? A mere 30 years ago, the country was one of the poorest in the world. How did this Southeast Asian nation grow to become a middle-income country? And they answer their question for themselves. Vietnam has invested heavily in human and physical capital, predominantly through public investments. Vietnam invested in its human capital and infrastructure. Facing a rapidly growing population, it stands at 95 million today, half of whom are under 35, up from 60 million in 1986. Vietnam made large public investments, primarily in education. This was necessary, as a growing population also means a growing need for jobs. Vietnam invested heavily in infrastructure, ensuring cheap mass access to the internet. The Fourth Industrial Revolution is knocking on Southeast Asia's door, and having a sound IT infrastructure in place is essential preparation. These investments paid off, right? The GDP of Vietnam has been growing at roughly 6 to 7% a year, right? And this is the World Economic Forum. Vietnam has had an economic miracle with socialism because they have a government that invests in the population. This is according to the World Economic Forum. So that brings me to this really good document that I wish more people would read this, because there are people that will say, well, Vietnam has a stock market, it can't be a socialist country. China has a lot of corporations, it can't be a socialist country. Well, this is written by the General Secretary of the Communist Party of Vietnam. And I'm glad you're with us, Lisa. I really do appreciate it, and I'm glad you recommended me. I really do appreciate it. It's great to hear from you. And if somebody wants to find the link, I tweeted it out yesterday. So if you want to find the link, you can post it in the chat. It's a really, really good document. And you read it. It describes Vietnam and socialism and the views of the Vietnamese Communist Party. And I'm going to read some selections from it. The Communist Party of Vietnam, this is what they say. As you know, socialism can be understood in three different aspects. Socialism as a doctrine, socialism as a movement, and socialism as a regime. Each aspect has different manifestations depending on the world outlook and development level in a specific historical period. The socialism I want to discuss here is scientific socialism based on the Marxist-Leninist doctrine in the current era. The ongoing crisis once again proves that capitalism is anti-advancement, anti-humanity, and unsustainable economically, socially, and ecologically. As Karl Marx said, capitalism damages the things that constitute its wealth, namely labor and natural resources. According to scientists, the current crisis cannot be completely resolved in the framework of a capitalist regime. Democratic regimes which follow the free democracy formula advocated and imposed in the West never ensure that the people truly belong to the people. Never ensure that the power truly belongs to the people. For the people, the natural factor in democracy. Such a power system still belongs to the most wealthy minority and serves the interests of the major capitalist groups. A very small proportion, as small as 1% of the population, holds the majority of the wealth and means of production and controls most of the financial institutions and mass media dominating all of society. We need a society where the development is truly for humans instead of exploiting and trampling on human dignity for the sake of profits. We need economic development in parallel with social progress and fairness instead of a widening gap between the rich and poor. We need a society which yearns for progressive and humane values, a society of compassion and unity, mutual assistance instead of rivalry for selfish benefits of individuals and groups. We need a political system under which power truly belongs to the people and by the people and serves the interests of the people instead of a wealthy minority. These are the authentic values of socialism, aren't they? Right? And you read it, and I would encourage you to keep reading it. He goes on at great length explaining, he says, the concept of the socialist-oriented market economy is a creative and fundamental theoretical breakthrough for our party, an important fruit of the 25-year renewal process. In a socialist-oriented market economy, there are multiple forms of ownership and multiple economic sectors. The economic sectors operating in accordance with the law are major components of the economy and equal under the law in the interest of coexistence, cooperation, and healthy competition. The state economy plays a key role. The collective economy is constantly consolidated and developed. The private economy is one of those driving forces of the collective economy. Multiple ownership, especially joint stock enterprises, is encouraged. The state and collective economies provide a firm foundation for the national economy. The relations of distribution ensure fairness and create momentum for growth and operate as a distribution mechanism based on work results, economic efficiency, and contributions by other resources and distributions through Social Security. The state manages the economy through laws, strategies, plans, policies, and mechanisms to steer, regulate, and stimulate economic development. The typical characteristic of the socialist orientation in Vietnam's market economy is a combination of economics and society, the coordination of economic and social policies, economic growth in parallel with social progress, and fairness applied at every step in every policy through the development of process. Right? Basically, he's saying, just like in China, right? They have a stock market, they have private companies, but the government controls them. Right? It's market socialism. The market exists and brings in foreign investment, and it's very useful in building socialism. But at the end of the day, the Communist Party has the power. The Communist Party controls the economy, and through doing that, makes sure that growth is unlimited. Right? It's fascinating. It's a very good document. Very good document. I'm very, very happy about it. Right? And I really encourage people to read this if you want to understand socialism. There's literature like this from China as well, but this isn't literature from Vietnam, explaining that they are communists, they are socialists, and let's be real, Vietnam has had an economic miracle with socialism. Bangladesh has not had an economic miracle, right? Haiti, with its free market policies, has not had an economic miracle. Nigeria has not had an economic miracle. Countries that maintain the rule of Wall Street and the unregulated rule of profits have not had an economic miracle. But Bolivia, under Evo Morales, had an economic miracle, right? Vietnam has had an economic miracle. China has had an economic miracle. Angola, during the 2002 to 2014, had an economic miracle. When the state controls the means of production, when the economy is organized to serve public good and not profits, growth can be unrestrained, people can be raised out of poverty, good things can happen, right? Socialism does work. And the lie that we're constantly told, that we need capitalism, everywhere that's ever had socialism, everyone's poor. I'm sorry, look at China and look at Russia, right? They both became superpowers with socialism. Compare the Cubans to the people of Haiti, the people of the Dominican Republic, the people of Guatemala, of Honduras. Right? All these people fleeing to the U.S. borders, trying to get into the United States, desperately poor in countries that have free market, unregulated capitalism. Guatemala, Honduras, countries like that, right, that have just suffered under the boot heels of free market, unregulated capitalism are dirt poor. Haiti, right, there's a country with all kinds of unregulated free market policies, dirt poor, right? Socialism is an alternative to capitalism that has great success. And I don't know why that is off limits in the United States. I don't know why that can't be discussed. And it infuriates me that reality is ignored in the United States. And it infuriates me that the left doesn't advocate such things.